This gym has room for a few hundred people. It has 7,500 members. If every one of them arrived tonight, the business would collapse before the first treadmill started. There would be a line at every machine, nowhere to park, and probably a visit from the fire marshal. Yet those thousands of members are exactly what keep the doors open. That is the strange math of a modern, low-priced gym. It sells far more access than it could deliver at one moment, because the members spread themselves across mornings, evenings, weekdays, weekends, and many days when they do not come at all. But the owner cannot simply hope everybody stays home. A member who never gets value eventually notices the charge. A gym that feels dead is hard to love, and a club packed wall to wall at 6 in the evening can lose customers just as quickly as an empty one. So the real product is not a room full of machines. It is a carefully managed probability, the chance that you can use the machine you want when you finally decide to show up. Today, we are building one mature, 20,000 square foot, low-price gym from the membership line down. It will collect $2 million in annual revenue and appear to produce more than $700,000 of four-wall operating profit. Appear is the important word. Because treadmills age, walls need remodeling, and the debt used to build the club still wants its payment. Once those costs take their turn, the owner's cut is much smaller than the first profit number suggests. But before we subtract anything, we need to understand how one room can sell thousands of copies of the same front door key. At the end of 2025, Planet Fitness reported about 20.8 million members across 2,896 clubs. Divide one by the other, and you get a crude average of roughly 7,200 members per location. That is not a precise store count. Some clubs are new, some are mature, and members can use more than one location. But it tells us the scale of the model. A successful low-price club is not serving hundreds of subscribers. It is serving thousands. And almost none of them is buying a single workout. They are buying time. 1 month of access, then another. The card renews, the bank account gets charged, and the member remains part of the business whether this week's attendance is 5 visits, 1 visit, or 0. Planet Fitness says more than 90% of its corporate club and franchise revenue comes from recurring streams such as monthly dues, annual fees, and royalties. The company describes the operating model in similarly plain terms: relatively fixed labor, minimal inventory, automatic billing, and limited cash transactions. That is a radically different machine from a restaurant. A restaurant must buy another piece of food for every plate it sells. A gym does not buy another treadmill every time somebody scans in. Once the facility exists, the next membership can add revenue much faster than it adds cost, at least until too many people want the same bench at the same time. So memberships are not just customers. They are slices of one fixed asset sold again and again. But selling thousands of slices only works if each slice is cheap enough to feel harmless. Which raises the next question. How does a $15 price turn into a $2 million business? The number on the window is designed to be simple. $15 a month for the entry tier, $24.99 for the higher tier. Easy to compare with lunch, easy to sign up for, and low enough to survive a month when the member never touches a dumbbell. But sticker price is only the beginning. Some members choose the higher tier, some pay an annual fee, some join or cancel in the middle of the year, some freeze, some pay enrollment or processing charges. The owner does not live on one advertised number. The owner lives on the blended amount that survives across the entire membership base. Planet Fitness reported $5.3 billion of system-wide sales in 2025. That measure includes monthly dues and annual fees billed by company and franchise clubs. It is not the public company's accounting revenue. Divide it by 20.8 million members, and the rough result is about $255 per member per year, or a little over $21 per month on an equivalent basis. For our model, we will round that shape into 7,500 average members producing $252 each in annual dues and fee revenue. That creates $1.89 million. Drinks, guest passes, modest merchandise, processing charges, and other small items add another $110,000. Total revenue, $2 million. This is not an industry average, and it is not a promise that an independent owner can copy a national chain. It is an illustrative, mature club built to match a public benchmark. Now look at the leverage hidden inside those memberships. 100 more average members add about $25,000 a year before the extra cost of serving them. 500 add about $126,000. And a $1 increase in effective monthly revenue across 7,500 members adds $90,000 a year. Small changes multiplied by thousands of cards become big numbers. But those cards are bought by human beings, and human beings are notoriously optimistic about what they will do next Monday. When someone joins a gym, they are making two purchases. The first is obvious: access to equipment. The second is invisible, a story about the person they are about to become. Tomorrow I wake up early. Tomorrow I train 4 times a week. Tomorrow I become the kind of person whose gym shoes are worn out instead of perfectly clean. Economists Stefano Della Vigna and Ulrike Malmendier studied this gap using contract and daily attendance records from 7,752 members at 3 American health clubs. The data are old, and the clubs were more expensive than today's low-priced chains, so they do not tell us exactly how often today's members attend. But they reveal something durable about the purchase. Members who chose a flat monthly contract above $70 attended only about 4.3 times a month. Their effective cost per visit exceeded $17, even though a 10-visit pass cost $10 per visit. On average, those members gave up about $600 in potential savings during their membership. They did not necessarily misunderstand the price. They mispredicted themselves. That optimism is valuable to the gym because the contract converts an intention into recurring revenue. But it would be a mistake to call every quiet member free money. A person who comes twice a month may love the option and stay for years. A person who stops entirely may cancel tomorrow. And a member who feels tricked can cost the club far more in reputation than they ever paid in dues. There is also a legal and ethical boundary. Recurring billing does not give a gym permission to hide the exit. In 2025, the Federal Trade Commission sued the operators of LA Fitness, alleging that they made cancellation unlawfully difficult. Those are allegations in a specific case, not a description of every gym. But the operating lesson is simple. A durable subscription business must earn retention. It cannot build its model on trapping people. So the ideal member is not someone who never comes. It is someone who values the option, uses the club sustainably, and keeps renewing. That creates a surprisingly difficult target. How busy should the gym actually be? Picture the same club at 3 different moments. At 10 in the morning, half the treadmills are empty. A cleaner moves between the machines. The room looks calm. At 6 in the evening, the parking lot is full. Every bench has a towel on it. People watch the clock while somebody finishes a set. At 2 in the morning, the lights are on for almost nobody. The owner pays for all 3 scenes. Rent does not care whether the room is crowded. The front desk still needs coverage. Heating, cooling, security, software, insurance, and basic cleaning continue before the first scan and after the last. This is why average attendance can be misleading. The building is not designed around average daily use. It is designed around the busiest hour members will tolerate. Add too few memberships, and the fixed costs crush the store. Add to too many without enough space or equipment, and the experience collapses at peak time. The most committed members, often the people most likely to recommend the club, are also the people most likely to notice every crowded rack and broken machine. The business, therefore, lives inside a capacity corridor. Below the corridor, the club is underfunded. Inside it, thousands of occurring payments support a facility that members use at different times. Above it, the owner has sold more peak-hour promises than the room can keep. And the corridor moves. January promotions push it toward the ceiling. Vacation season pulls it back. A new apartment complex can fill the evening rush. A competitor across the road can empty it. The owner's job is not simply to maximize sign-ups. It is to manage joins, cancellations, price, visit patterns, equipment availability, cleanliness, and staffing as one system. That sounds complicated. But on a financial statement, the first layer looks almost beautifully simple. Start with our $2 million of revenue and pour it into one large tank. The first drain is the building. We will assume $320,000 a year for rent and common area costs. That is 16% of revenue. It is an editorial assumption, not a national average, because a club in a suburban shopping center and one in an expensive city do not live in the same real estate universe. Next comes payroll, $350,000, front desk staff, cleaning coverage, club management, and other operating labor. Inside that number is a $110,000 market salary for an owner who also works as general manager. The owner does not get to call their labor free just because their name is on the company. Utilities take $150,000, 20,000 square feet of lights, screens, heating, cooling, showers, and machines do not run on motivation. Cleaning, repairs, and supplies take $105,000. A low-price membership still expects a clean locker room and equipment that works. Marketing takes $120,000. The January crowd did not materialize by magic. Insurance, software, payment processing, and administration take another $110,000. These are the quiet systems that keep the door scanner talking to the billing account. Finally, we apply a 7% royalty equivalent charge, $140,000. An independent gym would not literally pay that royalty, but it would need to replace the brand, national advertising, systems, purchasing support, and other capabilities behind it. We keep the line so our model can be compared honestly with the public benchmark. Add those operating costs, and we spend $1,295,000. What remains is $705,000 of four-wall EBITDA, a margin of about 35.3%. That is a striking result. It is also close to the royalty-adjusted mature club margin Planet Fitness reported for 20s. The company said mature corporate clubs averaged about $2 million of unit volume and approximately 35.3% after applying its current royalty. At this point, a prospective owner may already be spending the $700,000 in their head. They should stop. We have reached the most dangerous line in the entire model. Four-wall EBITDA tells us how the club performs before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, with certain adjustments. It is useful because it lets us compare operating locations. But the machines on the floor did not read the accounting definition. Planet Fitness says franchisees must replace fitness equipment approximately every 5 to 9 years. Its 2025 investor presentation described an older model with cardio equipment refreshed around years 5 through 7, strength equipment around years 7 through 9, and a remodel around $1 million. It also described roughly $3 million of capital for a new club under that prior model, while targeting lower investment under a newer one. Those are brand-specific figures, not a universal opening quote. But they expose the capital cycle every serious gym must face. The equipment wears, upholstery splits, screens age, flooring absorbs years of abuse. Even machines that still function can make a club look old next to a new competitor. So our owner puts aside $180,000 a year as an equipment and remodel reserve. The $705,000 becomes $525,000. Then comes the financing. Perhaps the owner borrowed to build the club, buy the equipment, or acquire the location. Our model assigns $300,000 a year to debt service. Now, the remaining pre-tax cash surplus is $225,000. Remember, the owner has already been paid $110,000 inside payroll for doing the general manager's job. Add that salary to the surplus, and total modeled owner economic benefit is $335,000. That can be an excellent living. But it is not $705,000 of spendable cash, and it is definitely not a guaranteed return on the millions that may have been invested. One club, two legitimate profit numbers, $705,000 at the four-wall operating line, $225,000 left after the capital reserve and modeled debt. And now we can see how a gym with attractive margins can still get into trouble very quickly. Let us run the same room three ways. In the conservative case, revenue falls to $1.6 million. The owner cuts some variable cost, but not enough. The lease remains. Baseline staff still needs to cover the club. Marketing may actually rise because the owner is trying to refill the membership base. Operating profit falls to about $308,000, a 19.3% margin. That still sounds profitable. Then the $180,000 renewal reserve and $300,000 of debt service arrive. The club finishes with a $172,000 cash deficit. It paid the owner $110,000 for working as GM, but the owner had to put $172,000 back into the business. Net economic benefit, negative $62,000. The front door can be open, music can be playing, members can be exercising, and the owner can still be funding the club from somewhere else. Return to the base case, $2 million of revenue, $705,000 of four-wall EBITDA, $225,000 of cash surplus after reserve and debt, plus the owner's salary. Now the strong case. Revenue climbs to $2.45 million. Payroll, utilities, cleaning, marketing, and the royalty equivalent cost rise too. But the building does not need to become 40,000 square feet. Four-wall EBITDA reaches about $963,500. After a larger $200,000 renewal reserve and the same $300,000 of debt service, the club leaves $463,500 of pre-tax surplus. Add the owner-manager salary, and total owner benefit reaches about $573,500. Across the three cases, the same category of business moves from consuming owner cash to producing more than $500,000 of total owner benefit. The swing does not require a dramatic scandal or a roof collapse. It can come from membership count, effective price, retention, rent, or financing moving a few turns in the wrong direction. That is operating leverage. Thousands of small recurring payments sit on top of a large fixed-cost platform. When membership grows, much of the next dollar can flow downward. When membership shrinks, the costs do not leave at the same speed. So, what actually protects the owner's cut? The obvious answer is more members. The better answer is the right members, staying for the right reasons. A gym can always buy a temporary rush with a discount. But every new member has an acquisition cost, an onboarding moment, and a point when the original motivation fades. If the club constantly replaces people who leave, revenue can look stable, while marketing and sales effort quietly consume the owner. Retention starts with basic promises. Clean rooms, working machines, a price the member understands, a cancellation process that respects them, enough energy to feel like a community, and enough space to complete a workout. This is where the quiet member becomes more interesting than the joke about someone paying not to go. The member who visits occasionally may be highly profitable, but they still need to believe the option has value. Perhaps they travel. Perhaps they train in bursts. Perhaps knowing the gym is available matters even when they miss a week. The frequent member creates more cleaning and wear, but they may also create the atmosphere, referrals, and social proof that keep everyone else attached. The two members subsidize each other in different ways. That is why the owner cannot manage this business with one number. Sign-ups without retention create a leaking bucket. Attendance without peak capacity creates a line. Low prices without scale create a loss. High prices without value create cancellations. And a strong EBITDA margin without a replacement reserve creates a future bill disguised as present profit. The machines are visible. Retention is the equipment nobody sees. So, how much does a $2 million gym keep? In our base model, the club produces about $705,000 of illustrative four-wall EBITDA. Then we reserve $180,000 for equipment and remodeling. We pay $300,000 of modeled debt service. What remains is approximately $225,000 of pre-tax cash surplus. The owner has also received a modeled $110,000 salary for working as general manager. Put the salary and surplus together, and the total owner economic benefit is approximately $335,000. It is not an industry average. It is not net income, free cash flow, or a guaranteed return. Taxes, acquisition price, land ownership, and working capital are outside the model. Change the rent, debt, price, or membership base, and the answer moves fast. But the shape of the answer matters. The owner is not really selling workouts. Workouts are unpredictable. Motivation is seasonal. Bodies arrive in waves. The owner is selling thousands of recurring options on one fixed room while trying to keep the room inside a narrow corridor between empty and overwhelmed. That is why a gym can have 7,500 members and room for only a few hundred at a time. It is why the quiet member can be valuable without being a victim. It is why a packed January is not automatically good news. And it is why $700,000 of operating profit can turn into $225,000 by the time real cash reaches the owner. The membership card starts the machine. The capacity corridor keeps it alive. And what survives the equipment cycle and the debt, that is the owner's cut.